All right, welcome to another episode of The Catholic Couple, having fun with faith, family, and friends. I'm your co-host, Bobby Fredrickson, and with me, as always, my beautiful wife,
Katie Fredrickson.
I'm the convert Catholic, and she's the
Cradle Catholic.
And here we are on another episode with a very, very special guest, all the way from Canada.
Woohoo! We're international now.
We're international now. Ron Huntley.
It's great to be here, guys. It really is a lot of fun.
We're so blessed to have you, and we were hoping to make this happen. At one point, it just worked out that he's in town for the next couple of weeks, and we got him penciled in, and here we are. So we're so happy that you're here. Thanks for joining us.
It's great to be here. I left a couple snowstorms in Nova Scotia to get here, and it was really nice the other day. It was like 17 degrees Celsius for don't know all the Americans don't know what that is.
What is that? Yeah, what? I can't. I know there's a formula, but
17's warm. Okay.
Oh, 17's warm?
Oh gosh, yeah.
Oh.
It's like 60 something.
Oh.
Okay, yeah. So yeah.
Well, that's what we had yesterday,
Yeah, that's what I
70s.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's this. Oh, okay.
I was up in
Oh, you
Chicago.
left the. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Get it together. Okay. Got
Well,
it.
they kept saying that in the Dominican too. We're getting thrown off. The people from England were saying it's.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
Well, and our hotel room too was 22 degrees
That's
Celsius.
nice, yeah.
And I go, you said it was very cold to me. And
Oh,
so,
is
or was it 19? It was like 19 degrees or
19's
something
chilly.
like that. Yeah. And I'm like, what is this 19 degrees? What is that? I don't know what this is in real, like, I shouldn't say in real degrees, in Fahrenheit. Yeah, it's hard. I can't do that formula in my head.
Well, so enough.
Anyway,
enough
enough about-
talk and Celsius and Fahrenheit and the benefits of both. But we figured we asked Ron to come on. He is an expert in leadership. He has his own leadership podcast, and we'll share all the links to his socials and his podcast. But Ron is actually our parish coach at SJE. He's been working with our leaders and the pastors on how to grow as leadership. And sometimes we take that for granted, that we always say, well, people are just born natural leaders, which we know some people have some of those skills, but for the most part, there's a lot that goes into leadership. And so we wanted to have Ron on to just kind of talk about some of those things in general, and then some in more specific, since our show is geared towards families and
How we all can step up and be a leader in our own homes and our
Yeah.
jobs and our friendships and things like that. What
that-
true
what
leadership
looks
qualities look like. Right.
And then, well, we can kind of just start, just kind of in general, Ron, if you wouldn't mind, just kind of sharing, like, how did you become a parish coach? I know you were in the corporate world, and how that looked like, going from something like the business world, obviously, which is a different skill set of leadership, to translate to the parish level.
Yeah. That's a good question. I think, growing up in school, in playing sports and stuff, I was better at sports than I was at school. But thankfully, the two go hand in hand sometimes. Somebody was thinking when they allowed kids to play sports.
That's true.
They were thinking of guys like me. And I found growing up, I had a lot of opportunities to be the captain of teams and stuff. And to be honest with you, it always confused me because I was never the best player on my team. And so whenever I was asked, I would say yes, but I didn't know why. I was a kid, so I didn't really think. But I did find it odd that I was asked to be captain. And that, different sports I've played, that happened. And I remember being in grade 10, and Miss LaRose was my biology teacher, and she was really strict. And I think it was probably the second day of class, she had a run in her nylons that went right from her bottom of her foot all the way up her leg. And do you think my friend Andrew and I could stop laughing? Like, we just went one of those uncontrollable laughters, and you're trying not to laugh, which makes it even harder.
Right.
And as a teacher, you've probably experienced that.
And then it's, what are they laughing? What are you laughing at? Stop laughing.
Oh, yes. And you can't
What's so
tell them
funny?
because you don't
Yeah.
want to embarrass this teacher. And so we ended up sitting at the front of the class for the rest of the year. And I think I had a solid 52 in that class by the end of the year. And I remember it was the last class of the year, and Miss LaRose said, Ron Huntley and Angie Romke, I want you to stay behind after class is over. And I'm thinking, there's no way I'm getting a detention on the last day of class. And why are you asking me and Angie Romke to stay behind? Because she's a model human being and a phenomenal student, and I am not.
So she was like the top student in the class?
Absolutely, yeah, rock star status. And then there's me. And so I'm thinking, I just don't think I did anything. And so everybody left, and it was just the two of us. And she said, guys, there's a leadership camp going on this summer for young adults or young people, and you two have incredible leadership capacity. Here's the brochure. I really want you to go home, talk to your parents about this, and I would love it if you guys would attend this leadership school.
You know, that's such an awesome teacher, because she saw something in you, you know, that you weren't the ideal student, but she saw that you had traits that could be built upon. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, and
because you're sitting there thinking, she doesn't like me because I don't do well in her class. I laughed in her face. There's no way this lady likes me, right? But she looked past that and saw potential in you and saw skills in you, right?
Yeah, I didn't necessarily think she didn't like me. I just knew that I wasn't a great student and she was strict. But I never thankfully felt that she didn't.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, but because she could have.
Yeah,
because I wasn't. Yeah. Anyway.
A lot of kids think that. A lot of bad kids, you know, or kids that make bad choices.
Yeah,
there's no bad
I was
kids,
both of those.
Yeah, the kids that make bad choices a lot of times think strict teachers just don't like them. But it's more. They're trying to help you. They're trying to,
They see the potential.
They see your potential, right?
So what was interesting is I said, thank you very much, left the class, and just outside of her classroom was a garbage can, which I threw it in and left, never talked to my parents about it, never thought about it again. I did not see myself as a leader, despite being asked to be captain of teams growing up, and, you know, this teacher having that very profound conversation with me, but I was too immature to deal with it. It was later in university that enough people said it about me that I thought, and I remember having this prayer, Lord, if I am a leader, because I'm still not convinced I am, but enough people are calling it out in me, seeing something in me that I couldn't see in myself. I said, if I am a leader, I want to be a leader for you. Like, I want to lay down all of my gifts at your feet and use me to do something cool.
And you'd said that as a college student?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I meant it. And so I started saying yes and stopped saying no. And what I found was I just had more opportunities to grow. And so I did a lot of things to just invest in myself because, you know, and one of the beautiful things I love about doing what I do now is I see people with leadership capacity. It's so obvious to me, just like Miss LaRose. I see it in people. And so now I get a chance to see it, speak it, and call it out in others. And so for me, growing in leadership was just part of my development as a human being. My love for Jesus and the church grew over time. I've had to make a lot of mistakes before I had the courage to start being the man God was calling me to be and stop doing that in ways that were destructive and selfish. And, God opened doors. It's I didn't have a plan to do what I'm doing. It was pretty much a mistake in many ways.
Before going into, you're a leadership coach within Catholic churches. Before that, what was your secular experience in leadership?
Boy, when in university I ran for student president. I'd never run for anything. So what's the first job I run for? President.
Go big or go home.
Right. And then, I was the president of the psychology society in school again, wasn't involved with anything, and then took it over. And, when I joined Toastmasters, the first role I took was president. I don't know why. I just always seemed to fill the roles.
Oh, you're in that Toastmasters thing?
I know that, but he had suggested I should do that.
Yeah.
I've been looking into it. I'm like waiting for COVID to get going now. They should
to where it's not virtual, right?
Yeah, I'm like, well,
yeah.
I'm definitely going to join. I'm interested.
So it's really cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you did Toastmasters as a
university student.
Oh, okay, as a university student.
And then I did it. I joined later. I did Christopher Leadership course. Because I was petrified of public speaking, like absolutely horrified of public speaking. And so I just realized if I was going to take on these roles, which I was already saying yes to, and actually be impactful in it, I better get over my fear because I was man, the stuff that would go on inside of me whenever I got up to say something
Wow.
to a group of students was scary.
Yeah.
That reminds me of a book I just read not too long ago. I did a YouTube two-parter on it. It's called The Obstacle is the Way. And the things...
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, that's a stoic kind of principle, but exactly, public speaking was your thing, and you just took it head on. You went like, this the obstacle, well, that's the way. That if you know the...
What a great leadership principle.
Yeah, and that's what I was like, okay, well, I just started doing things like, putting myself in an uncomfortable situation to try to overcome it, and not necessarily have to be my hobby, but just to see...
That's where growth is, though.
Yeah, that's it.
Right?
Well, that's where all the growth is.
Where you're uncomfortable, when you're out of your comfort zone, is when you grow. When you do these things that are going to make you uncomfortable, and then you overcome it. That's huge. That's a...
Yeah, but a lot of people can't handle the stress of it, because a lot of times they think the worst possible scenario. Like, obviously public speaking is like, I'm going to have a heart attack and everyone's going to laugh at me and I'm going to fall down.
Mine is I'm going to accidentally slip a profanity. That's mine every time. Every time. I literally say them in my head. Don't say this. Don't say this. Don't say this. I'm like, you're going to say it. Something's going to come out. Something's going to come out. Yeah.
Funny.
That is awesome.
But usually, the worst that usually happens is someone draws a blank or things happen.
Oh, and you do blow it. Like I've blown it before, but then you blow it and you realize I didn't die. Like, blowing it, who cares? You blew it. So what?
Right. It's not like people are going to remember for the rest of their lives. Remember that guy? What a horrible speech. Like, everyone moves on with their lives, right? Like,
I still do remember some horrible speeches.
Well, shh.
Well, you learn how not to give horrible speeches. Every time you learn a little bit something from it.
What I'm saying is, we need to get over ourselves sometimes. Like, it's not as serious. We're not as important as we make it.
Well, if we're going to bring a spiritual component to it, I don't know. We talked. I think it was maybe Louis. I talked to him about this on the podcast. Is that also, if we want the Holy Spirit to take over, who's the comforter, we have to put ourselves in uncomfortable positions.
Oh, stop it. So good.
Write that down.
So that's the thing, is like, too much, whether that's in the church, whether that's our lives or our jobs, is that we feel comfortable in what we do in the day-to-day. We like the sense of order, because it brings a sense of peace, because we can anticipate what is going to happen, and it's our routines, it's our regularity, and anytime anything gets changed, our physiologically, we have to adapt. Our brains have to think differently, but if we don't ever do anything different, how can you expect the Holy Spirit to come in, who's going to come in those situations and be with us? He's promised He's not going to leave us alone. So if things are tough or difficult, or doing church parish renewal, or starting a new job, or getting up in front of someone for the first time, and not trusting that God's going to be with you, it's like we have to put ourselves in uncomfortable situations.
I like that. Yeah. No, I like that. And it's a great principle to run towards issues that challenge us. And, when I think about parish renewal, I often say to pastors and their leadership teams, when there's a problem, leaders run towards it, not away from it. And if you run away from it, I'll tell you, the more time you give problems to resonate, that's Satan's playground.
The bigger monster you have to battle.
Yeah, an issue, an issue becomes a problem when we don't deal with the issues when they arise. And so we do have to run towards it. And that's where working out of a team for priests is so helpful, because we're all going to be good at some things and not so good at other things. And that goes for couples too, and families. And so to be able to support each other and help each other deal with those things we want to run away from, I need help. I need support. I need people around me who love me and care about me, and who will call me to man up, like to be the person I need to be in different situations, which might include prayer or role playing or talking about how that makes me feel or what I'm afraid of, and having those kinds of discussions sometimes fortify you to go have the discussion you need to have, and that's the beauty of working out of a team or having healthy relationships and marriages is we can help each other if we
and especially the communication. There's got to be trust there, where people are. A lot of times when there's a problem or things aren't going perfect, that people are scared to speak up because they're going to get judged. Or if you have those open lines of communication, that's the importance of the team, that that you can be vulnerable. That's where the growth's also at.
I was going to ask about that with leadership. There's sometimes this old school way of thinking that you have to look always strong, always look like you have it together, always look like you're right, always look like you're, and if anyone sees that you're weak or you need help, or anything. It hurts your leadership capacity. And I just feel like it's the opposite. It should be like a vulnerability. What is that? Let them see you sweat. Let them see that you're a human being, right? And that, again, like asking, we're in this together, right? What are your thoughts on that whole mentality? And have you had to deal with priests or other leaders when you're doing leadership coaching that think, no, nobody can see that I struggle with this, right?
Brene Brown does a wonderful job. My mom's been reading a lot of Brene Brown lately, and she actually swears when she talks, so you'd probably really like her. But she talks about that, just the whole vulnerability piece. And Patrick Lencioni talks about that in his books. And I do think that people need to get over that. But not many of the priests that I work with have that mindset, or they wouldn't ever be coached by me to begin with. Like,
oh, that's a good point.
They
wouldn't say, "I need."
Requires humility.
Yeah,
and
that's
so,
true.
I was going to say that's the main word is just in anything is humility, and that not false humility, but a genuine humility.
Yeah, like I think about the work that I'm doing here, and the reason I'm in Indiana working with Father Sammy. Like, here's a priest who's in his mid-60s, who's been very successful, and yet is placing himself in a position to wrestle with some of the things and to be challenged on some of the things that he hasn't been challenged on before. Like, who would do that?
Right.
Like, and some people say, oh, you should, those young priests, you should be working with the young priests. It's like, you can only work with the people who have the humility.
Yeah, that ask you for the help, right?
Yeah, and that and so it has nothing to do with age and everything to do with disposition. And so that's what I love. Like, we're never too old, we're never too young.
Do you feel like more older priests seek your help?
Yeah, because they've had a sufficient... either they've had sufficient failure in their life, or they've had a sufficient amount of time to do everything they thought they could do, and they know there's more and they don't know how to get there. But I find oftentimes the youngest priests, they have all kinds of ideas and stuff, and they haven't had a chance to put it into practice yet. Right. So why would they need help? Right. And I get that. I love that belief in self and that testosterone or whatever it is that causes these young men to go out and bang their heads against walls and do things all by themselves. I love that. I was that guy too. And I think life has a way of helping you recognize that you're not quite up to the task.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with, I read a lot of books or asking people who have been successful. You came from a parish with Father James Mallon doing the divine renovation. And the thing we've always talked about, and when we first started getting involved in parish work and ministry, is that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. You've seen bringing multiple churches together and then watching it grow and like we need to.
It's all attitude and
is model. It's just being humble. Like, okay, well, who's successful? Who's in the Catholic Church? There's a lot of parishes that are closing. There's a lot of stuff that's going on, and in the middle of all this chaos and all this turmoil, who's still thriving and what's going on and what are they doing? And asking questions. We don't have to do everything exactly, but we can pick and choose what the things would possibly work for us, or ask questions, or bring in someone else and bring them in. But that's what frustrates me as a convert. Is that I just don't understand a lot of we're the universal church, but in too many times we're silos. Is that we're closed in, we're so focused on our own numbers, and we got to get people in our pews and all this stuff that we're doing, and it's like we got churches that are like a mile away from her, half a mile away, and no one knows what each other's doing. And it's like, okay, well, maybe you're doing a soup kitchen, or this is working, and no one like talks. I know they have diocesan meetings and stuff like that, but it's they have synods every so often, but at the end of the day, it's like, well, which parish is doing great? Okay, well, what's working? And having humility to say, okay, maybe we can try doing this, or maybe we can, mentor
partner
up and do that. And it's like, SJE, before we came there, we came from a parish who was trying to implement a lot of these things with, not to
got a lot of pushback, and some things were working, but like we looked around at all the parishes in the area. We were parish shopping because we had moved out here, and we had been in Indiana for a while, and we were still going back, driving 40 minutes to our old parish because we didn't want to leave. So we were looking around, and I'm like, they're doing all the stuff. All the things
that we were trying to implement. We read Divine Renovation. We read Rebuilt. We went to the Amazing Parish Conference. We were trying to get a lot of these things. We started Alpha. We're doing all this stuff. But it's like ultimately our priest was in it with us, but he just didn't have he was an administrator, and he was a faithful, great priest, and he's been on our podcast, but he didn't have the leadership. He didn't have how to cast the vision, how to sell, how it
or
could
enable the lay people, the laity, which I think is huge,
which
a huge
tried.
component.
I mean, he was open, but it's just that that can only go so far. And if you would have been working with him, I'm sure we could have worked a lot.
Yeah,
to
right.
Did it. But then the Diocese of Chicago, there's all kinds of parish renewals and parishes closing, so then it just kind of just did it and
dismantled
then,
itself.
But we looked around, and the parish that was doing the stuff, it's like we felt like it was like cheating. Like we just like
it's already happening. We don't have to do much. Just plug in. We just have to plug right in.
And it was like
that's true.
And it was crazy because our parish priest was telling us like, just go there. He was telling us to go. He was, and that was like. He's like, no, they're doing all the things. So just go there. I'm like, I can't believe you're telling me that. But that's he wanted us to develop and to grow and to be disciples, and so it's just
good on him. That's a humbled position to release people like you guys who have so much capacity for impact and so committed, and to release you guys like that's magnanimous. So good on him.
Well, it's just to me.
No, right. He's a dear friend of ours still.
But it's just crazy that like other parishes, like in the Diocese of Gary, aren't like, okay, well, what's going on over there? Like we were just there today for Mass, and it's bursting at the seams with people. Everyone's involved. After Mass, everyone knows each other. Everyone's so happy. The Mass is beautiful. Like the music's great. The homilies are great. All the things are going good. There's so many things going on, and it's like we've been to other parishes. We know what it's like to go somewhere, and it doesn't seem like there's any impact, or people's lives aren't being changed, or like would I invite somebody from outside the church to this parish? I mean, I had a hard time inviting someone to if they're not that welcoming. It's just it's just like, well, I invited my brother he's never been to a Catholic Mass, maybe for like a funeral or a baptism or something, but I invited him, and he was impacted by it because of how welcoming everybody.
I got to tell you that. So that gave me chills. So he's with us, and every Mass, SJE makes that disclaimer of you're welcome.
Yes.
No matter where you're from,
whether you're Catholic or
and
not.
You think about it like as a practicing Catholic in the pews, you're like, yeah, we know we're here for Mass, right? But it's so different when a non-baptized, non-believer is sitting right next to you, and you feel the weight lifted off of them.
When they recognize that
they're welcomed
people
here,
like them.
Yes, it's such a different perspective, and that really is that's leadership, casting that vision that we want to be a place that welcomes all, right? And so what does that look like? Well, that looks like us doing this every time and being consistent with it.
Even if that means you have to hear that same message.
Even if it means my parishioners are going to probably question, why do you say that all the time? I'm sure that that's a question that a leader, like again, as someone in leadership, as a principal, we see a bigger picture, right? And we get a lot of questions. Why do you do this way? Why do you do this way? Why do you do? Well, because when you see a bigger picture and you think about those kinds of details, just to me, sitting with him at that time, I'm like, that makes so much sense why they do it that way. But you never really thought about it before. If you never brought someone before, it's a completely different.
Yeah, and he was he didn't say. We took him out to lunch after that, and then he didn't really talk about it, and I wasn't going to push him. But then he's reached out to me. He's like, I don't know what happened. He's like, something was going on. I'm like, that's what happened to me, Dustin. I'm like, the first Mass I went to, I'm like, I can't explain it. I couldn't put into words what was going on, but I just felt loved. I felt like God was touching me, that I was where I was supposed to be, and I'm like, that's what's going on. I'm like, you're not going to be perfect overnight, and you're not understanding what's going on, but God is working.
Yeah, perfect takes a couple nights.
Yeah, it takes.
I'm still working on it.
But it was all because of everything was intentional. I think a lot of part of leadership is not
intentionality,
not being
reactive,
reacting to everything, putting out fires, but putting in the time, the effort, the plan, the vision, whatever it is. Okay, hey, let's expect that people from outside the church are coming in, that this is the church for people who don't go to church, and if when they're here, we don't know who's coming in. Whether they're rich or poor,
and even the screens that he knew. Again, same thing. We take it for granted that we see the word sit and stand, and we see all the things. We know that on the screens, but We didn't have to tell him the whole time, okay, now we're going
Or
to, even
what
though
to say is
Avery
on there. You have to
was
look
kind
on
of
the
upset.
book.
Do we need to tell him? Do you want me to open the book? I'm like, okay, calm down. I'm like, it says it on the screens. He'll know when to sit and when to stand. It's okay. Calm down. But it was like, so when I worked in the public schools, I underwent a training called the UDDI. It was the Universal Design for Differentiated Instruction. What you would do, it was modeled after architecture that would design a building for all. And you wouldn't even know that it was handicapped accessible. It was just built into the architectural design, right? So it would be that you were a teacher and you would design your lessons to equip all types of learners. And you wouldn't even know it because you're hitting all those different needs that students have in your lessons. And that's kind of what SJE does. And that's kind of what I think just good leadership does in general, like just casts that design for all. Like, how do we be intentional about specifics, but not let the whole group know that it's for those specifics? If that makes sense, it just is a norm. It's part of our norms, right? And how does it fit to where everyone's bought into that too, right? And that's a huge challenge at the same time.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever done anything that everybody's bought into.
No,
No,
because everybody has an opinion.
Yeah,
No.
and so I guess it's, and that's why prayer and discernment is so critical. And again, working out of a team is so helpful because it's hard. But when we feel convicted on things, I was just talking to my friend Father Francis Bitterman on the way down. He drove me down. I was at their church, St. Joseph, for a few days before I came down here. And he was talking about the whole thing of passion, like when he works with vocation people discerning, priesthood. And what's your passion? Like, do you remember your encounter? And tell me about it. And why did it matter? And how did it change you? And he often gets people to reconnect with their initial encounter, because out of that will often define what you want for others. And so that's the most important thing, because if not, we're looking at programs and processes and all these other things that are helpful, but they only make sense in the context of our encounter. And out of that comes our passion, and out of that comes our vision. And then we build up everything else. And so often I see people copying what other people are doing without understanding their own encounter. If they've had one, that assumes they've had one. And you can't even assume, priests have had that, because many priests have had it after they've been priests. And so we make a lot of assumptions there too. But I think it's really important when we're stealing stuff from other people, which we really believe in case leadership, copy and steal everything.
Yes, that's me.
And so I'm okay with that. But also,
but the why behind it, if you don't,
Yeah.
What's the why, and what's your why? And if they align, then
they can go
perfect.
it can go sideways quick.
Well, it's just then people know you don't really.
It's not genuine.
It's not genuine, and people see right through us.
It's just a copy.
And they won't follow you if you're not passionate and you don't mean it.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we take programs and stuff, but we're not committed to them, and they don't last very long. And that's like
Right.
Alpha. Like Alpha's borderline useless if you don't get it and you're not passionate about it and you don't have a vision beyond Alpha and willing to do whatever it takes to bring it alive. If you think you're just going to bring Alpha in, give it to somebody else and don't promote it, and then at least you can say you did Alpha. You might as well not even bother.
Where was I? Was that I don't remember if I was in an alpha thing or if I was at like a focus conference when they basically said, it's not about the program, love people. Like no matter what, program, like, so again, intentionality, what am I doing this for? So if it's just like, oh, we got to get this other program going or we got to get this other thing. No, it needs to always have that, your vision, your mission, that is what's driving instead of, we're going to try this thing. We're going to try this thing.
Stale too, because every company's got a vision or a mission statement, and they just like.
But if
they
your
do
passion's linked
That's
to
what I'm
it,
saying.
it's different.
What most companies or businesses do, they're like, oh, well, we got to do this mission statement, so they come up with it, they put it on the wall.
Oh yeah,
But
and then it's only just a
but
box
it's just,
check.
Yeah. So how do we move, whether if that's our business, our family? Because we've talked about that. We have certain like leadership things like mission statements here, just even within our family.
Beautiful.
And we say it all the time. It's like,
time out. What's our vision and mission statement in our family?
Our mantra is hard work.
Oh, hard work pays off.
Pays off.
Okay.
We say that all the time, and the kids know it. I'll say hard work, and they go,
and then Brady goes, pays off.
Yeah, it's because we're pushing the.
They're
growth,
not happy about
We're
it.
trying to push the growth mindset that we're not trying to tell our kids how great they are, which we know they are, but we want to
instill in them grit,
a grit and a growth mindset and perseverance. So that's a big thing, and obviously the religious aspect, but that's just a separate part, but you can see how people do that because, like, we need you to do this, and then they slap it on the wall.
Yeah, and then what happens?
But they don't know the why, or there's no passion, there's no encounter. Why all of a sudden they want to make a difference?
Or their behavior is completely opposite of what they've put on the wall. It's like, you treat us like crud, and you're saying we're all these things. I don't trust you as far as I can throw you, bud. You just signed my paycheck,
that's
so
just
whatever.
That's what your wishful thinking was the way that we are.
Yeah, right. That is true. Like, this is where we want to be, but what steps are you been taking to achieve that?
And I think you hit it right on the head with the encounter part, because, like, for me as a convert, I had that experience and I can point to it, which is a lot different than most cradle Catholics or every Sunday Catholics who've been going to mass and they've been catechized, but they haven't been necessarily evangelized. Is that yes, they get Jesus in the Eucharist, but their lives aren't being nothing's like changing. It's just, it gets routine.
I think it's an ongoing
but there
conversion
hasn't been
sometimes.
I don't know. As a convert, it's weird because I've had multiple of these and I can express it because I don't know if I'm just special.
It's like you got struck by lightning or something.
And when you say
Multiple
convert, you're not talking about convert from you were very involved in your Baptist faith and then you converted
I'm like
to Catholicism.
a converted pagan.
Yeah, you didn't have faith.
No,
and then
I didn't
you
have
came
any
to
faith.
faith.
From nothing to something.
So saved, really.
Right.
Is the language.
Yeah, really.
Ooh, yeah.
It was. I mean, I was baptized, so that's why maybe I say that. But I believed in God, but I didn't have a religion. I didn't, barely. Anyways, but it was. I can point to in the conversion keeps going. It isn't like it was a one and done type thing. Mm-hmm. And it's like, when we went
it's
to
every day.
We went to the Amazing Parish Conference. I had one. Like anytime the encounter night at St. John. I mean, it's just like anytime I spend a long time in adoration, or just hugging my kids sometimes, or doing prayer with the kids, or there's all kinds of ways. But it's like so many other people. It's like, how can we facilitate? You can't artificially.
You can't, and I don't think we're asked to. I mean, I think we're asked to get out of his way. We can only do so much, and then we have to stop thinking it's about us in the first place. But my thing with this encounter and moving with your encounter is that your charism?
What's that?
Is that your gift from the Holy Spirit? Is that what that is? Your how you're saying, like, your encounter is what drives you, and then that's what gives you your purpose. Is that your charism?
That's a neat way to frame the question. I don't know the answer to that. For me, it's your deepest why, and out of that, you have to figure out your charism. Like, let me give you an example. A good friend of mine, Father Mike, he came to St. Benedict Parish as an intern. And he really just wanted to pick up a couple of tips and get a break. Mm-hmm. We'd meet once a week for an hour, and I would say, Mike, your life's going to be transformed, but we don't do tips. And so, and we weren't really. I liked the guy, and he liked me, but we weren't connecting in a way that was transformational. And then, so one day I just said to him, "Listen, I'll tell you what. You go away." Come back here next week and tell me why I should buy into whatever you're selling at your church. Like, who are you? Why should I follow you? And so sell me next week on what it is that your church is about, what you are about, and why I should get involved. And I just give you a preface up front. I'm already going to buy. So I'm not a hard sell. Mm-hmm. But go away and figure out who you are and figure out what you're about and why I should get involved. Because I need to hear it from you in a way that I sound convinced. And he went away and came back the next week, and we started with that exercise. And what he shared with me was all the things he probably learned in the seminary. I could have just picked up any textbook and heard what he was saying to me, and I knew it wasn't true. And I just said, would you stop it? Would you stop it? I don't believe a word you're saying. You read that in a book, or what you're telling me the answers you think I should hear.
I'm kind of scared of this interview.
I'm not I'm not one bit bought into anything you're saying, because none of it is you, and I can see it from a mile away. Who are you? Ooh. And we just began to really have this heated exchange, and I was intentionally pushing his buttons because he was just feeding me stuff that wasn't real.
Right.
And eventually, and he's a big guy, he eventually just got really mad, and he said, "I'm a good friend." And I said, "Are you?" He said, "Yes." I said, "What makes you say that?" He said, "I've got all kinds of friends." I said, "Do you? Name them." And then he started listing off this whole name of friends. I said, "Yeah, but do you even know anything about them?" And then he started telling me all about their lives. And I said, "Mike, I believe you." I said, "What are the chances that maybe God, like, do people need friendships these days? Do you think there are people that are lost out there in the world that are lonely and that could benefit from authentic friendships and belonging?" I said, "Is it possible that God wants you to build your church around friendships because you have the charism of being an amazing
that's your
friend?"
gift.
He got up from that. He got up in the moment while we're talking, stepped outside, called somebody who was a friend, asked him to be on a senior leadership team. I think he recruited 2 people in the next 3 minutes on the phone because he finally got it. Yeah. But nobody ever gave him the permission to be himself. And if we just bury people in textbooks and we don't help people understand who they are and how they're hardwired, they're never going to have the impact God's calling them to have, because they are the impact God wants them to have. But we don't give them permission. And as a result, they can't be passionate because they're not even allowed to be passionate. They're called to regurgitate a bunch of words we can read without them even being there.
Amen.
It drives me bonkers.
Yes.
Yeah, that's part of my issue. I didn't know what I shouldn't know, what I shouldn't do. So I was just like a bull in a china shop. I would just be myself. So my father would call me the pit bull, because I would just come in like, I'm just having a lot of passion. I'm like, I had an encounter.
He was
and I don't know. I'm like, let's just do it. And he's just like, wait, slow down. I'm like, I don't have slow.
Yeah, I'm either all or nothing, sir. I don't know if you know me.
So I don't know. Get out of the way then.
Yeah.
I'll do the work. Let's go. So
well, that's where what's fun about you is that, in that context, it's just so beautiful, because this is where Strength Finders and APES can be so helpful, and somebody who loves you and cares about you and trusts you, and then be discipled in that, so that your energy and your passion is maximized and aimed in ways that can have the biggest impact. And in churches, when we can come alongside of people like you guys with your unbelievable capacity, love, joy, passion, and work together, Satan doesn't stand a chance.
And what we found too is just that there's so many people that have different gifts, and when they're working in symphony together, the problem from what we saw a lot is there was just people in roles, and it wasn't necessarily their gift or their charism. And then you get
the roles that they got burnt out in.
They get burnt out, or that then you have someone who came in off the street for the first time, and that's the person that they saw, and they're just burnt out, and they're just there because they volunteered,
or they've been doing it for 30 years, and, right?
But and that's not every case, but. Sorry, there was the dog. She woke up out of a dead sleep.
Because I hit my knee on the table. I think she thought the door knocked.
Yeah. But it's just like, it's awesome when we find people and put them with their charisms where God is calling them to be. Because then
in the right place at the right time.
They are who God meant them to be. They don't have to pretend they're doing what God's calling them to do, and then they try to lean into it, I guess.
And it's so hard. Like, you imagine if a priest is hearing this right now, is going to be thinking, where am I going to get the time to do that? And that's the thing. You don't have to do it. You unleash it, and that's where organizational structure and working out of a team is so helpful, because even the staff can't do all that, but we can continue to mobilize people within an organizational structure to care for the people in their ministries, and to begin to unpack and live out these principles within each of the ministries. And so volunteer leaders can actually lead and help make people great within their area of ministry. It doesn't have to be the priest or their lay associate, because all parishes feel under-resourced and understaffed. No matter how big you are, you're going to feel that tension, because that'll always be the tension. However, we can begin to bring people around us and equip them. And if we do that slowly over time and have this multiplication principle in play of mentoring people, then boy, it's incredible what we can do. And I think it was Rick Warren who said we often overestimate what we can do in a year, but we underestimate what we can do in 3 years. And so when we get the right principles and begin to live them out, and we invest intentionally in the right people, man, that is a snowball effect over time.
No, definitely. And I guess too, the big thing is what sets SJE apart or other parishes from what I've seen from our experience is the difference between a parish council and a leadership team. Is that there's the parish council would always do, I was on the parish councils, like, just like day-to-day type stuff or budget stuff or, the whole thing was like reporting, like they just wanted to do Robert's rules. I always say, I'm anti-meeting a lot of times. I always have
a lot of the times.
Most of the times. Because most of the times those types of meetings could be an email. G.K. Chesterton said, I've never seen any statues of any committees. It's like because usually stuff doesn't get done. I'm the guy okay, let's get into a huddle, let's talk about it, and then when it comes time to go do the stuff or to go evangelize or whatever we're doing, discipleship type stuff, it's like, okay, no, let's talk again about it. Just keep coming together talking about it. But it seems like when you have the right person putting together like a leadership team, you have a good mix of people, of someone who's analytical, someone who's kind of a driver, someone could help, where you have the right people, but it takes a lot of effort and time to craft a team that is open with each other, can communicate, work together, trust each other, and it takes any leadership, whether that's a school or a parish, where the head, the leader, because there's always someone in charge, where they give their power, because that's what they have to do. It's the control that they have to let go and to trust the team to work together and to get it. But the leadership team works great.
And with me though, I feel like my question is as a newer leader is what, you said, finding the time, like those people don't know if they have the time to do those things, right? And that then when they entrust it and let those mentorships happen, but doesn't the leader need to also start that domino effect, like start those mentorships themselves? 100%. How do you know when they're ready? How do you know when, like, it is that trust component, like this is the vision I cast, this is kind of what I want to see. And then how do I know when it's ready to be executed, or if someone feels like they're not, you know what I'm asking? I guess I'm a little naive with that.
I think a couple of things. It depends on the context, right? Because I think part of casting vision is understanding what other people's passions are first. And so to be able to listen to others, not just tell others, like, here's my vision, here's where I want to go, what do you think, do you want to do it? More so, hey, you know what made you get into teaching anyway? Like, what's your passion? What gets you most excited? If we were wildly successful as a school over the next 3 years, what could that look like in your mind? What would we have to do to get there? And after we listen to other people, they're often more likely to listen to us. I've been giving some thought to that too. You mind if I share some of my thoughts on that? Well, now all of a sudden they're willing to listen because they haven't been told and then asked to step in line. There's listening is I find anyway, a really important part of leading anything and winning people over, because then you understand them. And leadership is often most about listening. And so can I listen? And when I listen, what am I listening for? Because if I do a really good job of listening, I hear values and I see character. And that's what I'm looking for when I'm trying to partner with somebody.
You can also assess strengths in that and weaknesses. And
it's true.
Or setbacks or vulnerabilities, or maybe in listening, you can find out maybe misconceptions and correct them, right? True. So that is,
Or you can also recognize we're not on the same page, and so I'm not going to ask that person, because where I want to go, where I feel called to go, and what drives them crazy are two different things. And so we're not going to be able to work together at that capacity. Hopefully we'll be able to win them over time, but it's not a battle I want to fight right now. And so, and that's why too, I say to leadership teams and priests is when a priest steps down from a parish and moves on. I always say to the leadership team, give that pastor the freedom to choose his own team. Let him know that you'd be happy to work with him for the next 6 months or a year, whatever's helpful, but give him the freedom to ask you to step down and invite somebody else in if you're not the person that's the best fit for them. So don't attach yourself to your job, in the church, that is. But I mean, even as a principal, like let's say you had a handful of people that really help you gauge the temperature of the morale on the staff and maybe needs for development and and another principal came in. Well, if you had a handful of people doing that for you, that doesn't mean the next person is going to choose those same people. And so we have to be willing to put the organization and the mission ahead of ourselves, play whatever role we'll play to get the wins, and really be magnanimous and
again, humility, humble.
Yeah,
it really is the answer to all of it.
For me, that's what listening's the hard part. I think it's hard because especially if you think a leader is talking. It's like, well, I have to be the leader. I have to say things, and I have to be out front. And you do, but if you want to do it effectively, I mean, we were at the Alpha conference together, and the theme of the conference was love listens. It's like, well, if you want to will the good of other people, listen to them first to know what they love, what we can love together, and how we can work it together. Because if you don't, like for me in my job, it's like no one cares what we think. Right. They just don't. But it's like the people who are on the ground, your teachers with the students, or me at my job, like the people who are closest to doing the work, ministers and the whatever it could be, they know what's going on the ground. Just like the soldiers, the generals are the farthest removed from the battlefield.
Right.
You want to talk to the people in the ground, and they'll give you the best intel of what's going on, the temperature, what's going on. Hey, what's working, what's not working,
They know the impact of the decisions you're making because they live them.
They feel them.
Right.
And if you can build a relationship by listening and actually, not that you have to do what they say, but at least you can help to say, okay, well, all right. Well.
See, this is why your structure is so important, because for the general to do that wouldn't make sense if he's got hundreds and hundreds or thousands of people that are in the field executing on the plan. But that's where there's different levels of command, right? And again, that's so that you can stay in touch with what's actually on the ground and what's actually happening. And so that's the thing. The more successful you are, the bigger you grow, the further away you are in some sense. But that means the culture in your organization and the culture within each of the teams has to be consistent in terms of how we treat people, understanding what success looks like, how do we celebrate wins, what we reward, what will we tolerate, like all of those principles, if they need to be lived at. I always see leadership as a bottom-up approach, not a top-down approach, because that's what Jesus did. He literally got on his knees and cleaned their feet. And they're like, Peter's like, do not clean my feet. I know who you are. He's like, you don't get it. This is what leadership looks like in the kingdom of God. There's nothing below me. There's nothing I won't do for you to make you great. And so if Jesus did that, I think we need to model that in the church and beyond, in business and schools and wherever. I just really think great leaders are leaders who want to make other people great, not just tell a bunch of people what to do and enjoy their corner office.
Yeah,
I think that's the difference between a boss and a leader. Yeah, there's some people who want to be the boss and like the power. I've seen it, with my job, different people. It's like some people just like to bark orders. I really do, but it's just not successful, and people just. It's real in any organization. People can really sabotage you too. It's like I can see it all day long. It's like, well, they can still just go around you and do the stuff. Like it's so counterproductive. And it's just like even if you don't believe it, even if you're not that good of a leader, but even if they just pretended half of it to just to act like they care a little bit, like they could gain it, maybe fake it until you make it kind of stuff. But it's just like some people. I guess that's just the allure where they say absolute power corrupts absolutely. Sometimes it's like people who get that power, they don't know how to they don't know how to handle it sometimes, instead of coming from a religious background, with the servant leadership and stuff like that. It's totally different. But in most organizations, you don't have that aspect. But it's just funny because at my job, it's like now the new mayor came in and implemented prayer in a public place, which is unheard of. It's not mandatory. So now every day.
That's awesome.
I know.
And now it's like every day. So now I lead every single day, like 30 guys before work starts. And it's like funny. So cool. And I'm like nobody. They're like, hey, Bob, it's time for prayer. So I come up in front, and I don't do the sign of the cross because most people aren't Catholic. So I try to keep it inclusive. But I just, I was asked beforehand. I go to mass in the morning, and I'm reading scripture. I'm prayed up. I'm ready to go. And it's just funny where the prayer comes from, and it's usually, and I'll look someone in the face. It's like God. I don't know. He's working through me. Some reason I'm in this place, but it's just funny because it has been working, and the bosses are like softening up, and they seem to care more. I mean, it's crazy what's going on, and it's just some people don't think it's a big deal, prayer, but I mean, prayer works and it changes. I could testify to that, but it's just like. Imagine if that was everywhere. It's just, I know you can't.
Let's transfer that to parenting. Let's look at this as parenting as because I said so. As everything you guys just said, we can literally apply to parenting.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's
hard to do too.
Cool, because you want to say because I said so. Because I don't need to explain myself to you. Like I've heard myself say that.
Yes.
But I think that. Especially with parenting, you're teaching your kids how to love, how to live. You're teaching them what love truly looks like, and sometimes love is tough, right? But you're still able to communicate it in a way of serving them too. I think that can go a long way.
And I think too, by listening to the kids, as even like we don't have to do what they say, but letting them be heard, and like letting them get it out. I'm like, okay, I understand where you're coming from, and I can see that instead of saying, well, that's stupid, or just
like
shut
the
them
1
down.
minute reprimand does a good job with that. We've done an episode on that, the 1 minute reprimand, where you're basically saying when you we're using communicating our own feelings and still building them up, but also reprimanding the behavior and
we're separating them from their behavior.
Which is that a good leadership strategy? I would say so. That's a good way to talk to an employee when you do these things. This is what happens to our company, but I know you have the potential to be blah blah blah, right? Like those are all could be.
You just can't do. But I love you. That's like,
well, I don't know. I think you can. It depends on where you're at, right?
But I love you.
I'd say in a Catholic, I don't know. I think a Catholic school, we're a family. I can totally see saying, but I love you and I want to build you up.
The 1 minute praise, but you have to do both of them.
Right.
If you're going to reprimand
Just
them,
the 1 minute manager stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I read the 1 Minute Father. It was the book for the kids. The 1 Minute Father. So it's like 1 minute praise, 1 minute reprimand, and then
we did
and actually Avery goes, "Hey, weren't we supposed to do the 1 minute goals?"
She called us out on that because we told them eventually we would be
1 minute goals.
Once we get those things done, we would do 1 minute goals, and then one day she's like, "We never did our 1 minute goals."
And she's the child that's just like Bobby, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we hit him
calling me out.
We actually hit him with a 1 minute of praise on the way to mass this morning because they got up, their beds were made. We didn't have to tell them. They brushed their teeth. They didn't fight. We were in the car before the time that we usually have to leave for mass to make sure we get there on time. So we're like driving. We're like, hey, guys.
So we should give out your phone number now so all the people listening can call you to get all these tips.
We did a whole episode on it. Yeah.
And a YouTube on it. Yeah, because it
with the kids talking about it.
As we got away from it, things got out of control. And the more that we implement it and stick to it and do it, it works.
The 1 Minute Father.
It's called the 1 Minute Father.
Okay, you heard it here first. Go get that book, everybody.
He did a YouTube book review on it with Avery and Braden in it, and they're explaining how the process works
and how it worked for them and why they liked it.
Brilliant.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
but again, that is management. That is leadership, and you don't have to be a boss at a company to exhibit leadership qualities. You can be. You can use that with friendships. You can use that in relationships. You can use that in parenting.
Maybe I can even finally use it with the dogs to get them to listen and not jump up and
bark during podcasts.
The dog leader.
The dog leader.
The 1 minute dog leader.
The 1 minute dog. Yeah, dog command.
Yeah, right.
Well, that's the point is, or at least what I'm hearing when I hear you guys say that, is that you sought out to learn and to grow your parenting skills. And I think leadership has a lot to do with growing. Like whatever you're leading, grow. Like be intentional about getting better. Because if you be intentional about getting better, you'll get better. Whether it's in your marriage, whether it's parenting, whether it's leadership at a church or a principal or a teacher or a city worker or mayor. Like,
Well, there's so many resources out there and podcasts. Obviously, your podcast does a lot of good stuff. If you guys don't know, Ron actually is all over the world. He trains all over the world, and we've learned so much. And he's got a great podcast, so definitely give that a listen because there's so many people though, and a lot of the resources are free. It's like YouTube videos for anything that you want to do, but if you have to be passionate about wanting to be better, whether that's being a leader, a dad, a principal, like me, I guess that's just my thing. I'm just like obsessed with trying to figure out and be better at certain things.
But that is, what is that? That would be one of the qualities that you do have, is that you're a learner. You like to learn. You know that like that's not everybody's niche. But I think that out of this whole episode, if we could sum up this whole episode even in just one word, I think intentionality is the word. I think being intentional about what you do and why matters. And people notice, whether you mean them to or not. That's a natural leadership quality in and of itself. That I'm not just going things by the fly and I'm a nervous wreck and I'm just making these decisions, trying to make everybody happy. I know I'm intentional. This is my goal. This is where I'm coming from. This is my, what did you say? Your passion behind it.
That you're prepared.
You're prepared.
But then the other side of that too, though, is all the flexibility. You know, because what I've seen, if people who've been too intentional, sometimes it's like that balance. It's like, well, then no.
When it doesn't go their way,
we don't know how to throw an audible. We don't know how to shift when things are going bad, because their ego is like, well, no, this is what we're doing. This is how we're going to do it, and be able to change. Because I see that, in my job, it's like, well, we're going to do this. I'm like, well, no, listen to us. This is what's going on, and they're like, no, we're just going to do it that way. Like,
but you're saying to be able to be adaptable and intentional at the same time.
Yeah, because you could feel when things aren't working. Sometimes the best plans go bad. I mean, you can plan all you want, but sometimes stuff happens. So how can we, you know that. I mean, at your job, you had plans to do this and do that, and then
I don't even plan anymore.
Yeah, right. She's got more. She planned. She has a schedule of every meal we're gonna have on the fridge. She's the most organized planner that I know.
Plan to plan.
Yeah, and when it doesn't go as planned, like on Wednesdays, when Braden sees that it's supposed to be Mexican meatloaf on Wednesdays and we don't get Mexican meatloaf, he'll hold her to a stand. No, wait, Mom, you said.
But I'm flexible. No, I was like, well, I changed it.
The kids are not. He's like, no, Mom, we're supposed to have Mexican meatloaf.
You lied. I was called a liar.
Yeah, he goes, no, Mom, you lied.
You lied. So that's when leadership goes awry. When you tell the people we're going to be doing this, and then you change it up, and they're all like, "You lied." Yeah. Terrible leadership.
Very disheartening.
Yes,
it was about to be Lord of the Flies up in here. The kids were getting restless.
I think one of the things that just to kind of bring together two of the things that I just heard was, I think we can have some big goals that we need to work towards. Like maybe it's like, I'm just trying to think of it from a family perspective. Like we're just gonna have maybe you're finding yourself arguing and bickering and fighting and stuff, and you and your spouse just realize like, man, it's yucky in our family when we're not getting along, or whether it's the husband and wife or the kids or whatever, and we just want to be a happier family, and so. Why don't we just count how many fights we get in the next month, and just arguments where we just feel yucky and just feel gross, and maybe we're going to say, that happened 32 times, I don't know, and we want to get that down to 5, and so that's your goal. So we want to get it down to 5 in the next 6 months, and so. Great. So now you have a goal, and you're still going to have to do a bunch of other things. But then, what are you going to do to learn how to, diffuse your kids? Like maybe you need to figure out your kid's personality, and maybe you need to figure out what your wife really means when like whatever's at the sort. Like get better at not fighting. Like get better at understanding your spouse or your children, and get better at your own self-control and praying together so that you can be less charged and still count. And then move towards something. You're still going to mess up meatloaf Mondays or whatever that is. But have some big goals and work towards them. while you're also doing all the other gazillion things you need to
Right.
do. Don't let the gazillion things stop you from having, 1 to 3 big goals you're working on this year. Because, the whirlwind of ministry or family life is crazy. But lift your head above that and say, who do we want to be by the end of this year? And have some big, hairy, audacious goals and work towards them in the midst of the chaos. So it's one and the other. It's not one or the other.
Yeah.
I like that. Are you saying we should write SMART goals as a family?
Why not?
Put that on the fridge.
Oh, right.
You
No, then
liar.
Braden will hold us to it. Is that realistic and timely?
Was it smart?
Smart, or it's strategic,
Specific,
measurable,
measurable.
or specific or strategic, measurable,
Achievable.
achievable, realistic,
And
and
time-bound.
timely.
Yeah.
For those who are keeping score at home. Yeah. So, but because it makes sense. Well, just like because a lot of things, especially in family, if it's not measured, if we don't put a number to it, how do we know if it's getting better or worse? And that's the thing. Like in families, like, well, we're not going to count how many arguments we have because it's weird. But until it's a problem,
I don't know.
But,
I think
you don't want to know the answer.
I kind of like your. I kind of like that
what
idea.
Yeah, it's just because we don't think like that when it comes to like business we do, or not even like a church. Like, well, no, God's going to He's going to provide, or why do we got to know? Why do we got to count how many people come to mass? Or it's like all these things. Well, because we have to know are we getting better or are we getting worse? It's measurable, and if we don't measure, if it's not measurable, then it's not manageable.
Because it can take the same amount of energy to do something poorly as it does well. Like Father Michael White from Church of Nativity just tweeted out there, they have 1,500 people in their small groups. Their goal was to add 1,000 more people to their small groups by a certain date. And they did. They hit over 1,000, but they measured it. They knew exactly how many people they added. But boy, does that ever ramp up your game in terms of asking, following up, making sure people are connected and plugged in. Like you got a lot of things right if you want to get that right.
Right.
And so sometimes if you don't, like, hey, let's promote the small groups. It's like, okay. But if you're not measuring, was that time well spent?
Mm-hmm.
Was the way you promoted, was it successful? Do you need to tweak it? Well, if you're not measuring, you
How
don't
do you
even
know?
And you're still
Yeah.
putting in the same amount of effort, like you
Right.
said. It's just it's more focused and it's more specific. And when it's that way, then you focus on the
You
things.
might put it in less, actually, because if you know something's not working, you're not going to waste your time doing it.
a little bit on the front end, but on the back end, it's less time. For
Right,
Sure. And
right.
That's the difference about being intentional. Yeah, it's a little bit more planning and work on the front end, but on the back end, it makes so much more.
Can I
easy.
tell you an interesting story? It was horrifying, really. But at St. Benedict Parish, we had somebody who was in charge of religious education, director, or whatever, and they had all kinds of people working for them and tons of energy and resources and space and everything go into it. And what we decided to do was count how many people, when they came for the sacraments, stayed once the kids got their sacrament. And then what we did was we count it. We classified things as were they already fully engaged in the church? So that's one category. Or not, right? And of the people who were not previously engaged in the church who came for sacraments, we count it, 0% of them stayed. 0.
Oh my
so
gosh.
All of but we never count. We've been doing it for years and never
It's
counted.
just like a sacrament factory.
Yeah.
Just
Which
turn them
is-
on and
which
they
is-
go out.
That's a global phenomenon. And so guess what we did?
Whoa.
We stopped doing it. Because we're sacramentalizing people. If they're sacraments of initiation, they weren't sticking around to play the game.
Wow.
And so we had to be honest
Zero,
with ourselves.
though. I wouldn't
Yeah,
think
the people
zero.
that were already engaged stayed because, of course, they stayed. They were there anyway.
there
Right.
already.
But the people that came that weren't engaged, they came, got their sacraments, and we never saw them again. And it was so... And
And you're
I'll tell
spending
you,
all that time and energy on them.
the team was shocked because they'd never counted before, so they just assumed everything they were doing was wonderful and isn't this great? Well, no, it's not great. But they literally been doing it for years and never counted. And so it changed everything that we were doing because we were holding ourselves accountable to get better than 0. And so,
But,
you know.
yeah, we had a similar problems. Like they had like the religious ed class like during mass. Like, well, what's the point of like teaching them about the church, but they don't go to mass? Like it was so like a disconnect. It's like, and they don't go to church. Or like, how about we have it like in the morning or during or after try to bring in the parent. Like we were like brainstorming stuff, and it's like no one else could see. Like there was an like. It's like, hello.
Well, that goes along with this is how we've always done it, right?
this is how we've
this
always
is
done
how
it.
we've
That's how
done
all
it.
the other churches do it.
And this is how everyone else
And
does
when
it.
we changed it, we got a pile of pushback from the people that had no intention on coming anyway.
Yeah.
It's just
Well, that's just what I mean. That goes with any organization, or whether that's in a family or a school. People don't like change because that goes against how we started the conversation. Is that when things are different, people get uncomfortable, then they don't know how to act, and then it's like they expect this, and it's not this. Then they their stress levels get higher, and they don't know what to do because it's different, and they have to figure it out. But I don't understand the whole thing. It's like, why get a sacrament if you're not going to come? It's not like it's once, it sticks
Well,
forever.
I see why they do it because, literally that's what people feel that's what it means to be Catholics, to get your sacrament. And so,
I guess, yeah.
It really has been that. And then
cultural Catholicism.
Yep. And then people fall away and they don't care, but their parents do or their grandparents do. It's like, all right, it's not the end of the world. Let's get them their sacraments. And so, less and less people are going to church. Less and less people are really engaged in the life of the church. And I'm not saying it's their fault. I think there's enough fault to go around in a lot of places.
End,
and I think it goes all kinds of. And culture's really smoked people's sense of, is there anything more to life than this? And so I'm not casting any blame on anybody. I just, as leaders, I think what a great opportunity to try to figure this out because it's fun. Like if this was easy, then
everyone
wouldn't be very fun.
that.
It's just actually really hard. And it's
When we signed up for RE before we were parishioners at St. John, when we first were like we were looking because they didn't have our religious at our. It was like a joke. So we were looking, and they're like, well, this is like a big commitment. Like, well, this is what we're looking for. Like, you got to go to church. You got to do this. You got to do this.
I was drooling.
They were
like when they're like gave us the covenant that we needed to sign. I'm like, gave me a covenant. I signed a covenant.
We had to sign a covenant.
I was so excited.
That we're like, okay,
do you intend to raise this child? Yes.
But I could see it's like, okay, well, don't waste time. Like we're not here just to do something for your grandmother. Like we're here to change lives. We're here. There's a lot of energy and stuff that goes in, and people
taking it seriously.
To do it. Yeah.
But I think that just knowing the impact of your decisions matters. Knowing the impact is this seeing fruit. Knowing the fruit. Knowing is there fruits to our labors? That is a huge thing. And if there isn't, make the changes. Stop doing it.
John chapter 15 is just a wonderful chapter to reflect on when he says, I'm the vine and you're the branches. And those branches that don't bear fruit, I'll cut them off and throw them away like a withered branch burned in the fire. But those branches that do bear fruit, I prune those too so they bear more fruit. And so the question is, in your ministry, what does fruit look like? Define it. And everybody's ministry, whether you're in music ministry, whether you're in the men's ministry, like whatever the ministry is, define what fruit looks like and hold yourself accountable to counting it. Because then you'll be able, because the branches are busyness. And you often say to, hey, have you made any new disciples? Well, I'll tell you what, we've been doing this, we've been doing that. That's not what I asked. And so people will lay down their busyness. They'll lay down all these branches. I remember we decided years ago, it was really fun, because Father James and I were chatting. It was actually after the Easter Vigil. I said, we always get so excited about the people that come into full communion in the church at the Easter Vigil. And it is exciting. We should get excited about it. It's awesome. But there are so many people that have come to faith and or returned to the sacraments, and they never get counted. They're the prodigal sons, right? They were already a part of the family, and they left, and they came home. And we're not fattening or killing a fatted calf for getting a robe. Why not? And so we both felt really convicted of it. And so we decided, because, the whole Great Commission, go and make disciples, if we were to rewrite that, it would say, go and make new disciples, right? Because the fact that, because nobody was a disciple of Jesus.
Right,
and so the assumption was that they're not a disciple now, and we're going to make them a new one, right? And so often in churches, we're just discipling people we already have. We're not making new ones.
Yeah.
And so we decided, so we had to define, well, what is a disciple? Like, how do you become a new disciple? And so with Father Simon Lobos, how we defined it as somebody who's had an encounter, a transformational encounter with Jesus, and as a result has decided to surrender and follow. They themselves would now say they're a disciple and that they weren't before. So they define it, not us. And so we'd ask them, we decided to do it on Pentecost Sunday. We called it the Pentecost Challenge.
Oh, I like this.
And we said, we got up there and we said, everything we do, like this is the birth of the church, and it is about making new disciples. And we love it when people come into a transformational encounter with Jesus and choose to surrender and follow. That's the definition of a disciple. Is there anyone here today who can say that in the last 12 months, you've had a transformational encounter with Jesus and you've chosen to surrender and follow, and you now consider yourself a disciple and you didn't before? Is there anybody here who could say that's you? And if there is, would you wiggle your right toe? And if you're wiggling your right toe, could you raise your hand? And if you're raising your hand, could you stand up? And if you're standing up, could you please come to the front, because we want to pray a blessing over you.
Like an altar call kind of thing?
And then we pray over them, and then we turn them around and we say to the church, this is the fruit of your faithfulness, of your giving, of your prayer, of your invitation, of your service. This is what fruit looks like. Transform lives. And so many priests are petrified to do that. And I don't blame them, because what if they do it and nobody stands for?
And nobody stands up.
If I'm doing church, if I'm leading a church and I'm bringing nobody to Jesus, I actually want to be the first to know.
Yeah.
Right? Think about the parable of the talents. I give you 1, I give you 2, I give that person 5. And I'm going to come back. And I need you to steward what I'm giving you. And I come back and 5 becomes 10. That's awesome. 2 becomes 4. You give me that 1 back? You think I'm happy with the 1 back? He wasn't happy at all. And he didn't give that 1 to the person with 4. He gave that 1 to the person with 10. Jesus expects a return on his investment of faith in us. And if I'm leading a church and I've brought nobody, if I've not made a disciple, I want to know now so I can do something about it next year. Because if that's the case, fair enough. But shame on me for leading in such a way that I haven't mobilized us to go and make new disciples. We're not in the business of doing church. We're in the business of transforming lives. And if we're not transforming lives and we're not counting transformed lives, what are we doing?
How many would come up? I'm just curious.
It was so cool, the first one. Like, Father James thought it was the greatest idea in the world until it was the Saturday night service, right? And that's in Canada. That's where most of your seniors go, right?
Oh, okay.
Right? And so all of a sudden he's like, this was a terrible idea, right? Because the other masses, like if you've done Alpha and stuff, you'll probably go to the other masses just because it's mostly seniors on Saturday night.
Oh, okay.
And so, and we've got amazing seniors, I must say. But we've got some people that not quite as enamored by some of the things as others. And anyway, he said he almost chickened out. But he said he was going to do it. And so that's what's great about a leadership team, too. You got to come back and be accountable for chickening out. So,
oh, that's good. Yeah, that's
right?
true.
And so he did it. And when he asked people to come forward, nobody came forward. And you could hear a pin drop. And all of a sudden, he said you could hear a snicker, like, ha, 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 almost mocking him.
Oh, my gosh.
And then somebody stood up. And they started to come down to the front. And then somebody else stood up. And somebody else stood up. And somebody else stood up. And 14 people came forward to the front on a mass that he wasn't sure if anybody would come forward.
Wow.
And he said you could audibly hear the gasp. People were like, can you imagine that Catholics going to church on a regular basis gasp at the thought of somebody coming to Christ? Like, we don't even expect people to come to Christ in the Catholic Church. Like, we don't even expect it.
Yeah.
And so anyway,
or maybe they just didn't know what that meant. No, I don't know.
No, I think because he described it perfectly well. And with that perfect description,
Sorry.
they went,
I'm trying to give them
That
excuses.
totally isn't happening
Here's
here.
the cradle Catholic over here trying to give
Right?
the cradle
Yeah.
Catholic some excuses. Sorry.
Yeah, no, we don't expect lives to change. We don't expect miracles. We don't expect people to be healed. We expect people to go to church. We expect people to get sacraments.
Yeah.
We do not expect
We don't
the
ex-
power of the Holy
We
Spirit
don't expect
to
it
manifest.
to change their life. Yeah.
Oh, that's how I felt.
Wow.
Remember when I gave after the communion, I gave up. I had to give a talk about like inviting people to Alpha because the priest didn't do it, so I was the one to talk, and I was like fired up. I was like, and it was Romans, like it was about the, if no one preaches, no one will hear, and if they don't hear, how will they?
Awesome.
So I'm like, and it was just like what, just like, what are you talking about?
Like, what time is it? We gotta go to.
I
We gotta go to breakfast.
I gotta get to breakfast. And I was
This guy.
just
What's
like,
this guy saying? For real?
That's what I was saying.
Wrap it up.
I know.
You could feel it, couldn't you?
Oh, it was like daggers too, and like the people
Yeah.
in the front were like giving me dirty looks, and it was
Yeah.
just,
And that's
But-
where you'll always start in most Catholic churches. And so good on you, Bobby, for doing that. It takes a lot of courage to do that.
I didn't know any better.
Yeah, totally convert. Yeah.
I just thought that this is what people.
This is what
did.
Catholics
This
did.
is what they did.
Well, like what I think it was another podcast or I don't know when you talked about this when you were so fresh Christian, started reading the Gospels, and we're like, well, when are we going to do all this stuff, guys? When are we going to do all these things? When are we going to do all the things? And everybody's like, what are you talking about? We just go to church on Sundays and then we do bingo. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I guess there's just part of it is that if they don't know, who's going to tell them like that? No, there's something more than just showing up, going through the motions. And that goes for anything, whether that's you can get into that routine
the gym.
at the gym, or
Yeah, and-
I'll
yes.
find that at the gym, especially in any relationship. You
In-
come
in
home,
any relationship
you come
was
home,
my-
you make
yeah.
dinner, you go through the routine,
Yes.
you pick up the kids, do this, and if you can easily lack the attention and the focus that takes in, but with church and Jesus, I think it's like.
It's still a relationship, and you can
It's
still get in ruts in
ultimately,
it.
if your parish isn't
And
on
it could be
fire, and
generational.
stuff isn't going on, and there is an opportunity, there's still a way to find it. Whether that's through the scriptures or spending time in the Gospels, whether that's praying and doing holy hours, there's other ways to encounter Jesus in a way that doesn't have to be directly during the Mass, too. And I think Catholics find that uncomfortable. Like, no, only things happen at church. Like anything outside of church is like, wait, is this church sanctioned? Like, what's going? You guys are
this
praying with each
church
other.
sanctioned.
Small groups at someone's house. What is this, Protestant? It's like, well, no, but that's for me, it's like I don't think they've been exposed to it, so they don't know. And if they're not,
It takes a while to change that culture too.
Yeah.
Like
It
it's
does.
okay if that's your culture and if that's your
Yeah.
position. It's okay, but we can shift it. It does take time, but we need a vision for it. We need we need that bigger vision. That's where we need the bigger goals and we need a plan because people aren't going to come out at first and we're going to get discouraged. But all that's normal as you're beginning to shift culture. I remember when I was in Truro. I was getting set up before Mass because I was going to pull a Bobby and be the one to speak about Alpha, right? The priest asked me to do that, and I was all excited about it. And so I'm getting up, and this older gentleman comes into the church, and he sees me, and he comes right over to me and says, "What are you doing?" He said, "You're not going to be speaking, are you?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I'm going to be talking a little bit about Alpha after Mass over." Well, I got to get home because I need to take my medication. He tore me a new one, and he was nasty. And it really bothered me because, you're trying to...
Was that and that was before you talked?
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
was that in your head while you were talking?
Yeah, totally in my head. And I knew exactly where he was sitting. And he was throwing me daggers, right? And I'm just like, son of a gun. Like, it was not comfortable. And anyway, so then I got down and then went out into the entranceway where my little table was for people to sign up, and all of a sudden, as I'm looking down, I felt somebody's presence there, and I look up, and it's him, and I'm just waiting for him to blast me one, right? And so I look at him, not saying anything, and he's looking at me, he's not saying anything, and he's like, "Well, where do I sign up?"
Oh, I
I'm
love
like,
that.
what? It's like, well, right here, I guess.
Yeah.
So he's like, can I sign my wife up? I said, yeah, sure. And honestly, he was the crankiest old man I've ever met. And he went and did the whole Alpha thing, changed his life, changed his wife's life, came back on team, and then he died. And I thought to myself, I am so glad that I was a part of doing something that changed his entire perspective on Jesus.
Wow, that's
and on the
beautiful.
after. It was beautiful. And so we're going to run into opposition, but that's okay. Love them anyway, right? Love them anyway.
Love them
Have a
anyway.
vision beyond what people can see, and don't give up.
Yeah. I need that written down and like put in my
That's
office.
The hurt
Say that
people,
again?
hurt people, and
Have a vision that
and
people
we
can't
know what can
see
heal
and
them and
don't
help
give
them.
up.
We have what the healer. You know, it's like there's something there at the core. We just got to find a way to see past that sometimes, to not take it personal.
It's hard.
Because it's not you; it's something else. Obviously, deeper than 5 minutes of an announcement. You know, but you're in sales, but before you were in the church stuff, that's the saying. It's like some will, some won't. So what? It's like Jesus in the town and said, "Hey, if they don't listen, shake your sandals off and go."
Dust.
You can't make. We're called to throw seeds and plant seeds, and the
And
rest.
again,
the rest
get out
is
of the
up to God
way,
and get
right?
out of
It's
the
not
way.
about
Pray-
us. And that's
pray
another
for them
humility, right?
So it's
Get
so
out of
how
the
can
way.
we do that in a way that's where more people are going to be attracted to it. It's like being nice and loving and listening, the things that we're talking about, being intentional.
Surrounding yourself by people that share your vision and passion and are willing to have your back, and don't go it alone. Surround yourself by others.
That's the hard part. We've had each other this whole time, so I don't know if we didn't have each other, it would have been tough.
I wouldn't be taking
Well,
my
we had a
faith
small-
seriously
we-
if it weren't for you.
Well, but we had a small team.
I
It
would
was
be still
Father-
that cultural Catholic that just has to go to mass
Well,
on Sunday.
It was 4 of us. It was me, you, Phil, and Father.
Yeah.
And now Phil is a deacon.
Yeah.
He went. All 4 of us went to the Amazing Parish Conference.
That's where it was.
And I almost got to fight
We
with
got to see Father Malin talk.
Yeah,
It
we
was
saw
very
him at the
cool.
first. Yeah.
Where was it at, that one?
Denver.
Denver, Colorado.
That's what
Oh, I was
changed
there
everything.
too.
Yeah, they changed
too
everything.
bad I should have met you.
Yeah.
And before we even left, I was almost ready to fight him and like, no, we're gonna do this, we're doing that. I was so fired up after that conference. I could have flapped my wings the whole way home. And
That was a great conference.
Yeah, I
wasn't
was
it?
fired up. I had another encounter there.
Oh, you mentioned his name. What is
Lencioni?
his name? Lencioni.
Yeah, he was good.
we got that he passed out his book there, and I think he hosted it, didn't he?
Traits of a dysfunctional team or something.
5 dysfunctions, or
Yeah.
five
Yeah, yeah.
dysfunctions of a
He
team.
was the
yeah.
host. Yeah.
Yeah, he was the host, and
Yeah.
then
He does a lot of good
Curtis
stuff with
Martin was
Curtis
the
Martin,
other
Father
one.
Michael White.
Yeah, and I feel like that was
Lisa
my first time.
Breckenmeyer.
Yeah, that was my first time ever being exposed to any of those people, any of this stuff, and then really,
We were convicted. big time
yeah,
After that.
got into Focus. Focus was his thing was Alpha. He was all about. I'm like and then I like went down the rabbit hole with Focus stuff. I'm like, ooh, what's Focus? What's that? What's so, yeah.
It's awesome. But that's
Yeah,
what
those
got
some
us into
giants,
thinking
that's for
about
sure.
leadership stuff, and I started getting involved, and I went to the lay leadership program, and Katie was doing her teaching, and now she's the principal. So it's crazy you were there and we didn't even know it.
Wow, look at it all come together.
That's awesome.
What year was that?
I think 2014 or 2015. I think 2014.
Okay.
Yeah, we didn't even know what it was. Father's
We had
just
no
like,
idea
hey,
what we were
you guys want to
saying
go to
yes
this
to.
thing? And we're like, free trip to Denver. I'm like, let's go.
Yeah, that was awesome. Me and Rob McDowell were there with Father James. We had a great time.
That was awesome. Well, it's been already a long podcast.
Okay.
We get talking. I want to keep you forever.
Yeah.
We could talk for hours. I know
Yeah.
Katie's got school in the morning. I'm actually off tomorrow.
Yeah, must be nice.
I have
Oh,
a holiday
look at
tomorrow, but
you.
I am on call for the snow. We're supposed to get snow.
Do you guys call them holidays? Like, you know how like in Europe they say I'm on holiday when they say they're on
you have a day
vacation?
off. Oh,
Or a
vacation.
day
yeah.
off.
Holiday, yeah. Well, a day off is a day off, but if a holiday, what? Taking a vacation day or
Yeah,
on holidays
like,
from going away somewhere?
Do you say
When you go on
do you
vacation,
say
call it
that?
a holiday?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I think so. Yeah, that's a good.
Like that's what they say. Like everyone
in
when we
Europe, they're like, yeah, we're on a 2-week on holiday.
we're a 2-week holiday.
every
2-week
vacation
holiday.
for them is 2
like
weeks.
holiday. I always thought it was like holy days, like
Right.
Christmas, Easter, holidays. So it's like when they say
Well,
I'm
you're not
on holiday,
working,
I'm like,
that's pretty holy,
Well, like,
isn't it?
so I'm like, are you taking holy days off? What are you talking about? Like, I'm like, do they do
What
it?
I mean, it's a paid holiday.
It must be. That must
It's
be
a
more of
paid
an
day off
English
holiday.
thing.
Right,
Yeah.
I'll take it. It's Kazimierz Pulaski Day. It's a very important day.
Revolutionary War hero.
Yeah,
he
so
was.
what-
This is my people.
the founder-
Polish.
the founder of
Are you Polish?
Yeah, I'm
the
Polish.
founder of
cool.
the modern cavalry.
Yes. I remember.
was.
Oh, I remember
If it
we had
wasn't
to
for him,
use.
we wouldn't
How
have
did we
won.
get down that rabbit hole? You guys are impressive.
Yeah.
We're towards the end of it. That's what it's getting late past our bedtimes.
Losing it. All right.
All right.
You want to end in prayer?
Yes, we'll thank Ron for coming on and giving us all this
Yeah.
all this insight into leadership, and don't get discouraged. Like I said, there's the way we're talking. Don't be discouraged. Like, oh, we got it all together. This is.
Oh no, I don't have it all together.
No, we're working at it, and I'm studying and reading, and there's so much to learn. And as we said, it's listening is how we learn the best from other people. So, so if you're interested in Ron, I'm constantly interested, so I'm so glad we got him on. But we're going to share all his social stuff, his podcast, his
Books.
Instagram, his books, his website. Yeah, he's also, before I even really knew Ron, I read his book. I was like, that Ron Huntley. Yeah, see?
That's Ron Huntley.
So yeah, we'll share all in the details of the podcast. We'll put all his information. And if you're interested in parish coaching, he's the guy for you. We love him. So thank you so much for spending some time. You want to end us in prayer, Ron?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me, guys. It's been fun. I love you guys. You're a lot of fun.
Oh, thanks.
You're always a blast. So in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. God, thanks for this podcast. Thank you for this Catholic couple and their desire to honor you, to love you, and serve you through their marriage, through their parenthood, through their profession as teacher and city worker. And Lord, wherever people are listening from, I pray that they will be encouraged, that they will pick up the mantle of leadership and learning and growing, to be more kind at home, better spouse, better parent, better business person, better leader at work. You know, sometimes we feel like if we only had a better leader, we would be a better leader. I pray that great leadership will start with you. The people that you influence and are responsible for supporting deserve you to be your best. I pray right now that the Holy Spirit would empower you to repent in the ways that maybe you felt jaded or given up. Whatever it is that's preventing you from stealing your joy, stealing your passion, preventing you from remembering why you got involved in the first place. Lord, just free up our friends from anything that would prevent them from being great leaders. And instead replace that with a sense of hope, with a sense of possibility, with a sense of curiosity. And I pray that you'll bring mentors into the lives of the people that are listening so that they can look to people who can be an encouragement when times are tough. And I pray that you'll give them the spirit of never giving up. We pray all this in Jesus' holy name.
Amen.
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 Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.
Awesome. Thank you, Ron. Thanks for coming on. Also, if you could like us, share it, give us that 5-star review, write a great review. Also, follow us on Instagram and on YouTube.
Constant content.
For constant content that I've
On
spent
that Instagram.
on the Instagram, the Catholic Couple One. So if you could follow us. Thank you so much. Have a good night.